Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.
It is ridiculous and it is against the laws of nature that we can have somebody sitting pretty who takes home more money than the credible entrepreneur who is doing actual production of goods and services.
We always say it as it is.
It is only in this country that when a thief is arrested, you hear elders from their tribe saying, "He is our son and he is our thief."
If you are deviant
Yes.
and I call you leader, probably you are already a leader, but you are leading in the wrong direction.
We want to see the role of the youth
Yeah.
in the security,
Yes.
governance,
Yes.
and development.
The youth that I meet and work with here, you know, we call them the millennials and X's and Y's, this and that. They don't necessarily want to live like their fathers and grandfathers,
Yes.
do business like their fathers and grandfathers. They're more independent, they're better educated, and they're the ones that are making everything move in this region.
We look at the issues, we talk about issues that impact people's lives in Africa.
The African peoples themselves continue to cheer bad leaders, and because they cheer them on, they continue to be misled.
Let me ask you, doctor, would you rather be somebody who does not enjoy so much freedom but you are rich?
Yes.
Or you'd rather be poor who you are actually imprisoned by the poverty itself?
My goal is not to come here and say, I want the majority ownership, I want to own this, I want to own that, I want to do this. My goal is we all make money and we're all happy, and I help build a big business here.
Punchline is for Africa, with Africa, from Africa.
In many parts of Africa, there is always a struggle for power. Struggles for power begin from the struggles for internal democratization of our parties or units where we belong when we come to power. The politics of compensational structure, the politics of deficit, the beginning from a deficit that I had a deficit. I had a deficit before I was born, or when I was born. I found myself in a poor family. It's the politics of compensation that haunts Africa today. Many people want to take on leadership, but it's the leadership as a basis of where you came from, or the leadership has qualities.
My father bought me my first shoe in 1981 from a Mr. Onyango on the street for 60 shillings because he could not afford the butter shoes. Why am I saying this? Today, as you can see, the gentleman who did not have shoes is sitting at the high table. With the son of the founding father.
Sasa kama nitaambiwa naongea siasa, lakini I'm not, I promise. I have no such intention. But, you know, when you hear people out there, you know, they talk, oh, huyu mtu fulani, dynasty hii, sijui dynasty hii. It's not about that. Leadership is not about where you were born. It's not about where you came from. It's not about the color of your skin. It is not about your tribe. It is just about a desire to serve, a desire to do good, a desire to make a difference in the lives of people. And anybody can do that.
For a leader to be a leader, he must have qualities. Identify himself with qualities of good behavior, qualities of no corruption, qualities of no hatred, qualities of engagement, discussion with others, collective responsibility, listening to the people. These are the qualities. A leader who delivers does not need to have a background. A leader who delivers can deliver without a background of the rich or the poor. Many people in Africa seem to be misinterpreting that once you are born, you directed God to produce you in a particular family. None of us would have been where we are had we actually had a message from God where we would be born. I therefore look at this as compensational politics. Meritocracy is the answer. Meritocracy gives you the position that you yearn for. Meritocracy delivers you a position. Meritocracy gives you what you are doing for the people of Kenya or Uganda or whatever country where you are in Africa. But if you don't have these qualities, even if you are born from a family that had the whole world as theirs, then you cannot be a leader. It is therefore very important that the leaders who yearn to become leaders in Africa stop the usage of compensational politics. The politics that you want to compensate on others simply because you were poor, simply because you didn't go to a good school, simply because you don't drink in the same place where they drink, simply because you don't eat in that restaurant, simply because you don't have cars. That politics has got syndromes, traits of people who are either corrupt or have hatred or have a problem on itself. I therefore call upon you people to re-examine as Africans that wherever you come from, the background you come from, you are an African. You can deliver something for your country. You don't need to be able, you don't need to come to compensate for the lost past, because with such attitude, you will grab everything and your country will collapse. Thank you very much for listening.
Mandhari ya kijani kibichi kilichokolea yanakukaribisha katika kaunti ya Meru, huku ikiwa na idadi ya watu milioni 1.4, wengi wao wakiwa vijana. Mji wa Kathera ulio viungani mwa mji wa Meru ni mdogo, lakini mji huu unakuwa haraka kiuchumi. Matembezi ya takriban dakika 5 kutoka mji huu wa Kathera unakufikisha katika kikundi cha vijana cha Mount Kenya Community Youth Group. Lucia Karemi ni miongoni mwa waanzilishi wa kikundi hiki kilichoanzishwa mwaka 2008. Kila siku ya wiki, mwana dada huyu ambaye pia ni mshauri wa wanachama wachanga wa kikundi hiki hudamka alfajiri na mapema kutekeleza majukumu kabla ya kujiunga na wanachama wengine wa kikundi hiki. Sauti za nyimbo za kitamaduni za jamii ya Wameru zinakukaribisha kwa bashasha katika makao ya muda mrefu ya kikundi hiki.
Tulianza kwanza kabisa na table banking. Tukaanza kucontribute every month 100 shillings. Hiyo 100 shillings tulikuwa tunakopesha memba moja analeta na interest. Kuna memba wetu moja alikuwa na knowledge ya beadwork, akapass kwa sisi na sisi tukaichukua.
Wakiwa katika harakati za kusajili kikundi chao miaka 10 iliyopita, kikundi hiki kilifahamishwa kuhusu hazina ya kuwezesha vijana.
The Youth Enterprise Development Fund was started in the year 2006. And later it was converted into a state corporation in the year 2007. The intention of establishing the fund was to enable the young people be able to create their own employment. It was purposely created to address the challenges of unemployment, which is an issue across the country. What we basically do is that we facilitate or we promote enterprises which are owned by the youth.
Wakatuambia kuna ofisi imekuja hapa inaitwa Youth Fund. Mkubwa akatundirect kwa hiyo ofisi, tukaenda tukaadvaisiwa kuna pesa ya vijana hapa. Mkiwa kikundi na mkiwa mmefungua account, kuna pesa mnaweza pewa hapa. Tukaenda hapo tukapatiwa form, tukajaza, wakatupatia 20,000 to start with.
Baada ya kupatiwa mkopo kutoka hazina hiyo ya vijana, kikundi hiki kilijibidiisha kuhakikisha kinafaulu.
Tukamaliza kulipa ile 20,000, tukaweka kwa beadwork. Wakati tulimaliza tukapewa fomu nyingine ya 50,000. Kupewa 50,000, ile 50,000 ikafanya kazi zetu sikuwe stable kabisa.
Hazina ya vijana haijakuwa tu taasisi ya kifedha kwa kikundi hiki, bali pia mshirika mkuu wa kibiashara.
Wakati tulichukua loan ya Youth Fund, walitutengenezea market. Kama kuna zile trade fairs, binzi zetu tunauza country kama Scotland, tunauza USA, na kuna onda tunangojea kutoka Japan.
Karemi ambaye anastaafu anasema kuwa ana furaha kubwa kwa kuanzisha kikundi cha vijana ambacho kimeleta mabadiliko kwa wanachama wake na jamii nzima ya Kathera.
Sasa tuka-identify several cases in our community, wale watoto hawana school fees. Tukaona the way of giving back to the community ni lazima tusomeshe hawa watoto. Recruit new members in the group ili nao wapate opportunity kama vile.
Na anapojiandaa kukabidhi usukani kwa kizazi kipya, Karemi anasema,
nimejisikia vizuri kwa sababu at least nimeacha matunda, something that I can stand in the community, niseme I have done this to empower my community.
Jacqueline Kenya mwenye umri wa miaka 24 ndiye atakayekabidhiwa uongozi kutoka kwa Karemi.
I want to move Mount Kenya community into another level, from not only from the less fortunate people but to other generations. I do not let them down. I do my best and I would always nitakuwa na seek advice.
Kenya anatoa wito kwa vijana kuchukua fursa ya hazina ya vijana kuboresha maisha yao.
Youth Fund wametusaidia because they are wanatusaidia, wanatupea capital to start the business, and again wanatu motivate to anza the new thing.
Kikundi hiki tayari kimenunua kipande cha ardhi cha ekari 1 kinachotumika katika kilimo biashara. Kwa kuwa wanaume wa kikundi hiki wajihusishi na shughuli za kushona shanga, wao hujihusisha na shughuli tofauti. Sauti za vyuma vikikatwa na cheche zitokanazo na vyuma moto zinakukaribisha katika kitengo cha kikundi hiki cha uchomeleaji vyuma katika soko la Kathera. Patrick Kevenji, msimamizi wa kitengo hiki, anasema kuwa hana sababu yoyote ya kujuta.
Nikaanzia kusave 200 ikafikia mali tukakopa pesa ya serikali 30,000 nikapata machines. Kupata machines sasa nikasema niko sawa, hata nikiitwa kibarua hapi sinaweza enda.
Shughuli hiyo ya uchomeleaji mwawezesha kupata kazi kutoka kwa serikali ya kaunti hiyo, makanisa, shule na jamii nzima kwa jumla.
Hii kazi kusema kweli imenipeleka. Naomba Mungu anijalie masuli kuliko hii kazi, kutokana na hii kazi nikuwe niko na mali yangu, nimenunua, nimejenga na niko pale stable kama wananchi wengine.
Ana matumaini biashara yao ya uchomeleaji vyuma itapanuka zaidi na pia kuwafunza vijana wanaotafuta ujuzi wa kuchomelea.
Kwa hivyo watie moyo, kuna kitu ya kusaidia kando kutokana na masomo, na hata kama huyo mtu amesoma kuna kitu kingine anaweza fanya, si lazima andikwe, anaweza jiajili mwenyewe.
Kutoka Mlima Kenya tunafululiza moja kwa moja hadi eneo maarufu kwa matoke. Jua linachomoza, miale yake ikiurembesha mji wa Nyacheki katika kaunti ya Kisii. Sara mwenye umri wa miaka 29 tayari ameamka na anaelekea katika kiwanda chake karibu na soko la Nyacheki. Wafanyikazi wengine 5 wanaingia muda mfupi baadaye na kujiunga na Sara. African Solution Technology ilianzishwa miaka 2 iliyopita.
If you can see all the women who are working with me, one, maybe you get married, maisha inakaa ngumu, unarudi kwenu. Ukirudi kwenu, sometimes uko na mtoto, huyo mtoto utamlea aje? So that's why I decided it's better to venture in business, and that's why I decided to look for ladies who also have the same problem. We work together because they understand what they have gone through.
Kikundi hicho awali kilikuwa na wanachama 10 na hatua yao ya kwanza ya kupata pesa ilikuwa kutengeneza makaa.
When we started making charcoal, we were 10 girls. Out of these 10 girls, kila mtu maisha ilikuwa mbaya. Sasa in the process tunaenda markets kucollect hiyo uchafu tukuje tukutengeneza makaa. Wengine wakasema, ai Sara, hapana, tulianza pamoja, lakini kama ni makaa hatutaendelea kufanya. Wewe endelea kufanya. So 5 left, we continue with 5. Juu lazima ukue mchafu. Kama ni makaa lazima ukue mchafu. Kama uko brown, uko black.
Ni vigumu sana kwa vijana wengi kupata fedha za kuanzisha biashara.
Tatafuta some youth, tukaanzisha hiyo jamu, tukaanza kutengeneza hiyo makaa. At the end of that month, youth fund wakatupea 100k. So what we did, we bought the raw materials. Sasa tukanunua makaa mingi tukajaza chini.
Kikundi cha Sara kilishinda katika shindano la biashara lililofadhiliwa na Standard Chartered.
We presented our ideas to the investors and I was lucky. I was number 3 out of 5. I was given 1 million. When I was given this 1 million, we bought the machine, the charcoal briquette machine. We started making briquettes. We bought these machines, the weighing machine, the sealing machine and the sewing machine. Tukafanya hiyo briquettes for almost a year.
Kutokana na msemo mambo madogo tuyafanyayo hutuelekeza katika mambo makuu, kazi ya kutengeneza makaa kutokana na vumbi iliwapeleka katika mkondo tofauti.
One day, one farmer came and told me, Sara, you know here in Nyachek, we don't have feeds. Sometimes we need feeds. Unajua, if they will not get feeds in Nyachek, they will pay for feeds to Keroka. Tukafanya research, we make our feeds, tukapea our, first of all we started with our animals. Tukapea our animals, tukaona the feeds is okay. That's how we started making the feeds.
Nataka chick mash kilo 2. Asante, ninashukuru. Ndio kuja wanafanya kazi huduma yao kwa haraka, na kwa hivyo tunarudi kwa haraka kushughulikia mifugo yetu. Pia packing wanatufanyia vizuri. Tukienda kwa zile vyakula vingine lazima utafute mfuko wa kubebea, lakini hapa mvuto sana ni hii mifuko yao, na kuja unapata ya kwamba iko tayari, wewe ni kubeba tu na kuelekea.
Baada ya kikundi hiki kutosheleza hitaji la lishe ya mifugo katika eneo hili, wakazi wa Nyacheki waligundua wanahitaji lingine.
Some customers came, sasa mnatuhusia chakula, simutuhusie na vifaranga. That's why we went for youth fund. They gave us 200k. We bought a nursery. Tukanunua na mayai.
Huwa vigumu kwa vijana kupata mkopo kutoka kwa benki kutokana na kiwango kikubwa cha riba pamoja na masharti magumu.
The intention of the fund is to make the fund attractive to the youth. What we've done is that for the group loans, we have given 3 months grace period. That if you borrow as a group, you don't have to begin repayment immediately. The repayment begins after 3 months. So that grace period is very attractive because it enables the youth to stabilize their businesses before they begin the repayments.
Youth fund is not hard because they understand youth. Because when I went to them, what they asked me, are you still working? Nikamwambia yes. If we come to your place, would we get the briquettes? Nikamwambia tuende, the briquettes are there. It's not hard, it's easy.
For individual loans that we charge a maximum of 6% interest. Now you compare 6% to the market rate of 14%, obviously the funding from the fund is quite attractive.
Paying also is not bad. You see what when you watakukuja, maybe you know there's some other loans wanakuja, if you delay this month you are not paying, wanakuja wanachukua machines, wanachukua anything they get in the premise, wanaenda nazo. Awa tuseme kama this month sina pesa, they are friendly, na wapigia simu na waambia this month mtanisamea, maybe next month I will pay.
Mafanikio ya Sara na wenzake hayakupatikana bila ushauri na kuelekezwa.
The customer is the most important person in the business. The president had a slogan which I loved so much. The president kept on saying, young people, we want you to get jobs. Young people, we want you to do better. And the president, in my mind, wanted to help, but he wanted partners. So I said, I will be a partner of the president by helping these young people that the president is already helping, especially through Youth Fund.
Kutoka katika eneo la Matoke, tunaelekea Kisumu, ambapo kuna kliniki ya meno kwa jina Royal Dental Clinic.
My name is Diana Kumurakwach. I'm 28 years old. I'm a co-owner at Royal Dental Clinic.
Diana Akumu na mumewe walianzisha kliniki hii mwaka 2012.
So we had saved up some money and it wasn't enough. So that is the time when we approached Youth Fund, and Youth Fund got us a loan of 2 million shillings that we topped up. Okay, we added to what we had saved to open our Homa Bay branch.
We have officers who work in every constituency. These are the officers who have the responsibilities to reach out to the young people.
All we needed was our financial and business records. We made an application through the local office, and yes, the loan was processed.
Pia kile utakumbana nacho unaposhindwa kulipa mkopo huo ni jambo ambalo linawaogofya vijana wengi.
Youth Fund has been really flexible, and when you're not able to pay up in time, which I think we've only been in that situation once, so long as you can give them a notice early enough, then it's just fine, they consider.
Diana anaungana na wenzake kuwarai vijana kuchukua usukani na wasiwe na woga wa kujiajiri.
The fear is normally rejection in the market and the fear of the established brands. But what I can tell young people is there is a first day for everyone. Even the established brands had their first day. So the fact that you're going to start small and it's your first day does not mean that you cannot conquer the market one time.
Mtu kama mimi sikuwa na kitu kabisa. Hata shilingi moja nikianzisha hii biashara sikuwa hata na shilingi moja. But it's because of Youth Fund, at least I'm where I am.
The government of Kenya is very passionate about empowering the Kenyan youth, and they have put in mechanisms and programs which befit the need of the young people. It is upon the young people of this country to take advantage of the existing mechanisms and frameworks to go and get assisted.
Jua linapoaga, miti na anga ikivaa joho jeusi, ni bayana vijana wa humu nchini ni wathamini wa ustawi na siku zijazo zenye mafanikio.
Uchumi wa Kenya utainuka, vijana wa Kenya wapate ajira.
very good morning to you, and we apologize for the late broadcast, but we thank you so much for joining us. Good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're tuned in this morning here in East Africa. It's just just a bit way past 11:30 a.m. here in Kenya, and thank you so much for finding time to be with me. I am Miriam Ogutu. Dr. David Matanga will be joining me later on the show, but first I'll just take you through the first hour of the show, and then he will come in later. And just looking at the dailies this morning, the Daily Nation, the dailies here in Kenya. We look at normally the three of them, the Daily Nation, the Standard newspaper, and the Star. And we start with the Daily Nation, and the headline says, Uhuru caught up in Raila Ruto battle for Kibra and fears that Jubilee's move to field a candidate and campaign for him in the by-election will threaten the handshake between President and ODM leader. That story is on page 4. Let's just quickly look at it before we get to the news-making headlines in Africa. We have a lot of things, and of course, the latest from the burial arrangements of the late president of Zimbabwe and former president Robert Mugabe. So I'll be giving you the latest information with regards to his final resting place. So please keep it here. But first, let's just look at quickly what's making headlines in Kenya. And of course, as I said there, on the Daily Nation on the page 4, and it says that the decision by Jubilee to field a candidate in the Kibra parliamentary by-election continues to generate heat in the party after it emerged that President Uhuru Kenyatta was not keen on the campaigns in order to gird the handshake. Now, multiple sources within the party pointed an accusing finger at Deputy President William Ruto over the push to field a candidate in the race in a bid to scuttle the handshake or the political pact between the president and ODM leader Raila Odinga. The sources revealed that the DP had reached out to the president to preside over the official issuance of the party certificate to its candidate, footballer McDonald Mariga, at Jubilee headquarters in Pangani yesterday in vain. Before presenting his nominations papers to the electoral agency today. So the Jubilee candidate there, McDonald Mariga, is supposed to be presented his electoral nomination papers yesterday. Or will be doing that today, sorry. And he continues to say Dr. Ruto was then expected at the party headquarters to present the certificate himself, but by the time of going to press, he had not turned up. Now, Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju confirmed that they were to issue the nomination certificate to Mr. Mariga yesterday, but the event was postponed at the last minute. So these are just the intricacies that are surrounding the person now that the Jubilee decided to be the flag bearer for the by-elections following the death of the Member of Parliament for Kibra, Mr. Ken Okoth, and in late July. And so, of course, ODM party settled for his brother, Mr. Bernard Okoth, or Imram, as he is famously known there in Kibra, to replace his elder brother. And ODM thought that would be a good choice. And so after some, I think there were some elections over the weekend to choose the flag bearer, and Mr. Bernard Okoth there emerged as the winner to the flag bearer of the ODM party in the upcoming by-elections in Kibra. But Jubilee decided to give the former football star McDonald Mariga a direct nomination, which of course brought a lot of problems in the Jubilee party, as there are about 16 candidates who also wanted to vie for the nominations, but they were denied the opportunity. So this move by Jubilee to nominate McDonald Mariga to be the flag bearer, I don't know if it was the best decision for the party, or it might backfire on their face, because McDonald Mariga, as if you've been seeing the social media streets here in the internet in Kenya here, a lot of young people and even the supporters of both parties are thinking, McDonald Mariga, he has played for some of the big teams in the world, but what has he been doing? Is there even a project that he has done to give back to the Kenyan youth? Or was he even involved in any sort of, anything, in terms of building the community or giving back to the community. So that has been something that Kenyans have been debating on or even on the social media platforms and across board. And we saw during the first few press conferences that McDonald Mariga has been able to speak. Man, he just does not have it in him to be. That is my own personal observation. When he speaks, you can tell he's not really quite in touch with the issues there, and he has not mastered the political language that might require him to try and get some votes from the Kibra voters. But Imran Okoth might have an upper hand. I don't know, but of course the Kibra people will decide, because his brother was really loved in Kibra constituency. Even in the last elections, I think the ODM party almost cheated him out of his nominations, but people from Kibra came out and supported him, and so the family has had a support, courtesy of Ken Okoth. So I don't know if that support for Ken Okoth will translate to his brother Imran, who has also been very actively involved. When his brother was still the member of parliament, he also was involved in different activities across Kibra constituency, and he was involved in community developmental matters there, and so he sort of has he has that touch with the people. These are people that he knows, that this is a place that he was raised and brought up. And so also that was another argument that was being peddled, that McDonald Mariga was born in the other side of town, that is the Eastlands. So how now that he wants to go stand to be elected as a leader in Kibra constituency? What does he know about that place? What are the pressing issues that he knows about that place? What are some of the difficulties, the challenges, some of the things that the people there want done, and so they're saying he looks completely out of tune and out of, with what is really happening in Kibra. So I don't know, from just a personal observation, I don't know if McDonald Mariga really was the best choice of a Jubilee party there in Kibra constituency. I don't know if, maybe because Imran is young, or the people that were being fronted earlier, even on ODM party, were younger people, and Ken Okoth was relatively a young person, and so they needed to counter that youth vote. I don't know if that will work on their benefit for Jubilee party, but when you see that guy talk, there's not a bone of politics or a politician. Politicians are born, others are made, but for McDonald, maybe he's just too early in the game, and he'll get with the groove as he continues. But so far, even the press conferences that he's been able to speak, he's not been able to be very convincing, but maybe he'll master that as he proceeds. And is this something that the Jubilee Party will regret in the days to come? Because of this also, as I've read there from the Daily Nation, there, page 4, they're saying that President Uhuru Kenyatta was not very keen for Jubilee Party to, have one of the candidates there for the Kibra Party, but apparently the faction from the DP, William Ruto's camp, of course, now it appears to be that there is a show of power, and just DP Ruto is testing his might, of course, as he prepares for his ambition of becoming the Kenya's president in 2022. And Kibra has been known to be Raila Odinga's staff. He was the member of parliament when it was still a huge constituency under Langata, but now after the 2010 constitution and the Kibra became a constituency on its own, but still it is considered an ODM, stronghold. So with DP Ruto insisting that Jubilee should file for a candidate in Raila Odinga's considered a stronghold, he's sort of trying to see and test the waters and see, is he able to cause some disruption in some of Raila Odinga's staff? And so that is what some analysts are saying, and that is what some Kenyans are looking at this. So they're looking at it as if this is just it's a power struggle of some sort, and I don't know if McDonald Mariga would be that person that they would want to throw in a turf where it is ODM's turf, and if at all he'll be able to convince the electorate in Kibra to elect him as the new member of parliament. Of course, that is just opinion, and of course the electing of the leader for Kibra or any other place is left for the Kenyans, and this time round the Kibra people will decide who who they would want to lead them for the remainder of this period until 2022 general elections. So it's very interesting there. So the Daily Nation there says Uhuru has been caught up in Raila Ruto battle for Kibra. And as I read there earlier, President Uhuru Kenyatta is very keen on making sure that nothing really scuffles the handshake that he had with the opposition leader Raila Odinga. And so he's been very lukewarm in terms of even supporting the Jubilee candidate for Kibra constituency, because he's seeing the bigger picture. And for him, the bigger picture is the handshake. So apparently, President Uhuru Kenyatta was being pushed to go yesterday to Jubilee headquarters and to try to issue the nomination certificate to McDonald Mariga, but apparently the president did not show up, and then the DP was supposed to go and he did not show up, and so I think he's supposed to be issued with the nomination papers today, if I'm not wrong, and that is according to the Daily Nation here in Kenya this morning. So yes. MPs oppose bid to remove cap on bank interest rates. That is also something else that is on the headlines there on the Daily Nation, and you can take the paper and just take a look for yourselves. And we look at the Star newspaper this morning, and members of Parliament accuse the state of crucifying them for backing Ruto. I think that this comes at a backdrop of what has been happening to Kiharu, Member of Parliament, and Ndindi Nyoro, and a lot of Kenyans are saying, come on now, the government is probably pushing it a bit too hard. And I was reading just comments on the social media, and even some Kenyans who are supporting the Jubilee government and President Uhuru Kenyatta saying, if President Uhuru Kenyatta keeps doing things like this, his government, because they're assuming that these orders are actually coming from someplace up there, they're saying this might backfire very, very badly on his face, and this will continue to widen the rift that is quite apparent right now in the Jubilee parties. I'll just read that quickly, and remember, just stick around. I'll be coming with the African news, and of course I have the latest in regards to the preparations for the burial preparations of the late President Robert Mugabe of Zimbabwe, and so please keep it here. So I was just wanted us to go through quickly what is making news here in Africa, and Dr. Matanga will be joining me in a bit, so please stick around. So let's just see what happens here. And Dr. William Ruto's allies now want President Uhuru Kenyatta to come clean on what they describe as vicious state crackdown on them. The politicians who spoke to the Star yesterday claimed Kenyatta must pick up on their ongoing persecution by security agents under Fred Matiang'i's Ministry of Interior. Kenyatta's silence, they warned, would confirm their fears that he has quietly instructed state functionaries to silence and intimidate Ruto's faction in Jubilee. Nyadara women representative Faith Getao said it was now clear the police and other government agencies has been roped into succession of politics. You know, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been very, very frustrated, especially with members of parliament from his own backyard in Central Province, who has joined the bandwagon of the Vice President William Ruto for early campaigns for 2022 succession, and the president has been very frustrated because, according to him, he feels that this is the time that the government is supposed to be delivering the promises that it had made to Kenyans during the last general elections that took place in 2017, and he has, without numbers, said that this is not the time for politicking, and that there will come a time that politics will take place, and that is the nearing the 2022, other general elections. But for now, he has been pleading and begging and asking that the politicians will allow him, to just, deliver to Kenyans what he had intended, what he had promised Kenyans during the campaign period that led to the elections in 2017. But what also has been very, very frustrating for the president is majority of these members of parliament or politicians perceived to be in the campaigning bandwagon are coming from his own backyard together with some Rift Valley members of parliament. And so the president has in several occasions castigated especially his own members of parliament from his own, turf. And so the arrest of Ndindi Nyoro came, I think, yesterday, on Sunday. I think we were here yesterday talking about a row that he had with the former member of Starehe, who was also now nominated Mr. Minor Commander somewhere in Nyoro's constituency. They'd gone there for a service, and I don't know what had happened, and it resulted in a physical altercation even outside the church. There was a scuffle in the church, and then they took it outside. And so the police had been after him. And on Sunday, he was appearing in one of the local television stations for an interview. And the police were waiting for him, but he was able to elope the police, and they did not get him. So yesterday, I think he was arrested, and I think he was released. As we were just coming up here, I think they were holding sort of like a rally or a press conference or something with another member of parliament from a lady, Alice Wahome, I think, there. So those are just the political, intricacies here in Kenya, and it's getting murkier and murkier. And now these members of parliament allied to the DP William Ruto are coming out and are castigating the government. They're saying President Uhuru Kenyatta should come out clearly and say why the police are after these members of parliament seems to be in support of the DP William Ruto. And they're saying because the president has been quite silent when some of this has been happening, they're saying perhaps the orders might be coming somewhere up there. So there it is. And Kisumu Speaker Onyango Lo denies getting 15 million Kenya shillings bribe. So that he used to be what? Onyango Lo, he used to be the Jubilee something. And he went and became the Kisumu Palace Speaker, and now he seems to be a problem there, and he's been accused actually of receiving 15 million shillings bribe over the Lake Basin mall or something that has been built, but it has not been able to receive any occupation yet, and the county spent a lot of money. It is said that the price of building that mall was inflated with over 2 billion Kenya shillings. Can you imagine that? That is only in one county. So it's a shame. So he's still being probed over that. And we look at the Standard newspaper, and it says a secret plot to force teachers into polls. After the contested ouster of Wilson Sossion, two top NAT officials are now fighting for their jobs as TSC declares they should have retired. So there it is. Politics has found its way in the teaching profession and in the teachers' union. Every day we wake up to new scandals. And also still on the headlines here at the Standard newspaper, it says showdown as court magistrate locked up. Mombasa High Court blocked the prosecution of Principal Magistrate Edgar Kagoni, but a court in Nairobi detained him yesterday as it had not been furnished with certificate orders. Let's just look at that quickly, and then we can jump into African news. I think we talked about it here in passing as we were having the show. I think that it was something that was happening. It was a developing story, so we had not had the full information, but let me just read a few lines here. And Principal Magistrate Edgar Kagoni spent last night in a police cell in Nairobi despite the High Court in Mombasa ordering his release. Mr. Kagoni will today take plea on charges of obstruction of justice unless his lawyers furnish the Nairobi court with certified copies of High Court orders suspending his prosecution. The High Court yesterday blocked the magistrate's prosecution in connection with the disappearance of narcotics worth 30 million Kenya shillings following a successful application by his lawyers and an association of judicial officers. So that is, I think Dr. Matanga gave us a story about what was happening there. Part of the evidence worth 30 million Kenya shillings apparently disappeared from the court safe custody, and so it was not presented. And so if you don't have evidence, that means the accused might go scot-free. So there it is. So thank you so much for joining. I see John Clark, you're saying you got to know even Raila was not born in Kibra and was elected as its member of parliament. So even Mariga can also surprise the people. All right, NS Newiki saying good morning, watching from Ambazonia, and I don't know what has been happening there in Ambazonia. Ambazonians just reading some very disturbing reports in the morning, and after the Ambazonia leaders were slapped with the life sentences, it has developed to other matters, and kidnappings has increased in the Ambazonia region, and schools have not been opened, and so very worrying times in Ambazonia. Keep writing and tell us how you're watching us from this morning. So we start with Zimbabwe. And former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe's body will lie in state at 2 different stadiums in the capital city for 3 days, the information minister said on Monday, but she did not announce where he would be buried on Sunday. Mugabe, an ex-guerrilla chief who took power in 1980 when the African country shook off white minority rule, and ruled for decades, died on Friday at a hospital in Singapore, and he was 95 years old. And in Cameroon, a group of teachers in Cameroon is clubbing together to pay the ransom of their kidnapped colleague. Bob Samson was abducted in August by suspected English-speaking militants who later contacted his wife to demand payment to free him. The Cameroonian authorities have not commented on the case. Abductions are increasingly common in Cameroon, where school children have become prone on the fierce conflict between Cameroon's main French-speaking government and Ambazonia fighters demanding the independence for the country's English-speaking heartlands. And in Tanzania, all trade and businesses has been banned inside the country's main camp for Burundian refugees. Residents of Nyarugusi camp say with their only source of income gone and no access to farmland, they fear they will be forced to return to Burundi. More than 200,000 Burundians have taken refuge in Tanzania since 2015, when President Pierre Nkurunziza's announcement that he would run for a further term sparked protests by opposition supporters who said the move was unconstitutional. This was met with violent crackdown by Mr. Nkurunziza's government. And we go to Nigeria, where the government will not offer financial help to hundreds of citizens who are set to return to the country following a wave of xenophobic violence in South Africa. More than 600 Nigerians will return in the coming days. The chair of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, Abike Dabiri, told reporters on Monday she said the country's mission in South Africa would continue to offer emergency travel certificates to any Nigerians whose documents have expired. Ms. Dabiri also called for South Africa government to pay compensation to any Nigerians affected by the unrest. And we go to South Sudan, where South Sudan's opposition leader, Dr. Riek Machar, landed in Juba on Monday to face-to-face talks with President Salva Kiir in a bid to salvage the stalled peace agreement. This is the first time in almost a year that he has visited the capital. Machar landed in the capital in Sudanese plane, preceded by 2 jets carrying a large delegation of around 60 people and security officers from Khartoum, where he is living in exile. An AFP reporter witnessed, and Dr. Machar was accompanied by Sudan's Deputy Head of Sovereign Council, General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, also known as Hemeti. And still in South Sudan, and the government and SPLM-IO have agreed to deploy all forces before the formation of the Transitional Government of National Unity in November. This is according to Henry Odwar, the deputy chairperson of SPLM-IO. The development came during face-to-face meeting between President Salva Kiir and the main opposition leader, Dr. Riek Machar, yesterday in Juba. Addressing the press after the closed-door meeting, SPLM-IO Deputy Chairperson described the meeting as a great sign of commitment to realization of the revitalized peace accord. Henry Odwar told reporters that it focused much on a deployment of about 83,000 strong force before the formation of the Government of National Unity. Still we stay with South Sudan, and the Minister of Information has described some members of Parliament as anti-government for calling for dismissal of Finance Minister over unpaid salaries. Last week, a member of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly asked the President to fire Salvatore Garang Mabior for failing to fulfill a promise he made recently in May. The Council of Ministers directed Garang to clear all unpaid salaries for civil servants, a directive he did not honor. In July, members of Parliament threatened to impeach him over the unpaid salaries and failure to account for the past fiscal year budget. We move to Rwanda, where 4 mayors and 6 deputy mayors, all elected officials, resigned in Rwanda last week. Following the resignation, Minister of Local Government Anastase Nshiyaka tweeted they have failed to deliver what they had promised citizens. It is not the first time there that has a mass resignation has been seen. And in 2014, 7 mayors resigned in a matter of days. And last year, another 7 mayors stepped down in a similar fashion. Observers observers say the officials are forced to resign if the central government does not think they are performing well. And we move to Egypt, where Egypt's foreign minister on Monday called for more support for neighboring Sudan's new civil-led government, including getting it off of U.S. list of countries sponsoring terrorism. The U.S. named Sudan as a state sponsor of terrorism in 1993. In one of its last acts, the Obama administration began a formal process to delist Sudan. However, this was put on hold when mass protests erupted in December against President Omar al-Bashir, a 3 decades rule which ended with the military ousting in April. And Nigerians living in Cameroon are asking both their government and their host country for help after at least 20 Nigerians were killed in separate violence. Ngozi Esther, who is 27 years old, says her husband and 3 children escaped from the English-speaking northwestern town of Kumbo after suspected militants attacked them 1 week ago. And we go to Uganda, and now Uganda registered an overall of 32%, a drop in new refugee arrivals in the month of July. But according to United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees' latest update covering between July 1st and 31st, there has been a more than normal spike in Burundian refugee arrivals. Arrivals from Burundi in July increased by 121% compared with numbers from previous months, with the total influx from the country for the month peaking at 861. And that is the latest from Africa this morning, wherever you're watching us from. It's a good afternoon here. I think it's top of the hour. Thank you so much for writing to us. Ambe Sohera, you're saying morning. You're tuned in from Jubaland, Kismayo. Thank you so much for watching. And of course, Enes, you're saying you're watching from Ambazonia. So now let's talk about, of course, we have to start with Zimbabwe. Even as the country gets ready to say, and of course the continent, there are a lot of people who actually look at Mugabe as a hero in this continent and across the world, but especially in this continent. And so as the Zimbabwe and the continent is getting ready to say its goodbyes to their former leader, Mr. Robert Mugabe, you know, there has been some issues that has come up, and of course, the government spokesperson came out yesterday and said the body will lie in state at Harare's Rufaro Stadium and then at the National Sports Stadium, also in the capital. She said, and Mutsavangwa said Mugabe will be buried on Sunday, but she did not say where he will be buried, and saying more updates will be provided as more information on the program trickles in. Now, so presidential spokesperson George Charamba and Deputy Information Minister Energy Mutodi at the weekend said the former ruler would be buried at the National Heroes Acre, a monumental burial site reserved for people viewed by the ruling ZANU-PF party as having served the country with distinction during and after the 1970s War of Independence. And Mugabe's first wife, Sally, is buried at Heroes Acre, and a vacant plot reserved for the former president is next to her grave. I do not know how Mrs. Grace Mugabe will take that. His first wife, Sally Mugabe, died, and there's a plot left next to her grave, and that was supposed to be for the now dead and fallen former Zimbabwe President Robert Mugabe. And there has been some issues that has come out, and one of the members of the family, Leo Mugabe, his nephew, came out and said that a former president died. Even to his death, he was a very bitter man. He's still angered by the people, but being toppled and removed from office that happened in November 2017. And he said these are people that he really trusted. You know, the army, these are the people that have always supported him, always given him the protection, always been by his side, always carrying out his orders. Literally, his life has been in his hands for 37 years as a head of state in Zimbabwe until the bloodless coup that happened in 2017. So he was still a very bitter man to his death over the ousting in 2017, and he had not forgiven these people that took him out. I just don't understand how that is a place that confuses me. I don't know, was there a better way to get Mugabe out of power? And I would understand where that was coming from, but also that is very difficult. If the people had been on the streets calling for you to step down, and in Parliament your own party was trying to get you out of the office, and you're still insisting. The honorable way was probably to just step down nicely without so much without you being coerced so much. But I think at that point, the army and the country felt that was the right thing to do, to have Mr. Robert Mugabe step down by force. Of course, he was forced to step down, and apparently he has not made peace with that. He feels greatly that he was these people really were not honest, and he feels that he was betrayed. He feels greatly betrayed by people he had entrusted for all these years. And you can argue, of course, as I was reading here, why the presidential spokesperson, Jill Charamba, and trying to justify the reason why Mugabe should be, and I think he should be buried at the Heroes Acre there in Harare, Zimbabwe. It's because they're saying that there they bury ZANU-PF members who are seen to have served the country with distinction during and after the 1970s War of Independence. And President Mugabe served the country with distinction, leading to and after, shortly after the independence in Zimbabwe. Then later on, about late 90s, early 2000, especially in the year 2000, that is where it all went down. And the problem, I think, is because Mugabe did not know the right time to leave the stage. And I think there's a place I read that he had said that he wants to be the president of Zimbabwe until he's 100 years old, like seriously. So if you overstay, you're welcome. Some things are bound to happen. And as much as he served the country with distinction, just when he was fighting for the liberation of Zimbabwe, and shortly after becoming the first prime minister and later becoming the first president of Zimbabwe, he did not know when to leave. So that rubbished everything, all the good things that he had done, and the distinction that he has served with prior to that. And so now, Mugabe's first wife, of course, has been buried at the Heroes Acre there in Harare, and just next to her grave, there's a plot there that was left for President now late Mugabe. And if you know the history of Mugabe and, of course, his personal life, his first wife, Sally, was very instrumental in helping him, of course, during his time when he was fighting for independence in Zimbabwe. And remember, one of the children died when Mugabe was incarcerated. He was in jail for about a decade, 10 years, and so one of their kids died when he was in jail. I think the lady later on left for Ghana, and then I think she came back, I don't know. But that made him a very sad man. And of course, Sally died from cancer. And before Sally's death, it is rumored that Robert Mugabe had already started having an affair with the then Secretary Grace, and who later he married and became his second wife after his first wife died from cancer. And so Grace has been very controversial. She is just a load of controversy walking and scandals. She has attracted a lot of scandals, and even I think from some analysts there in Zimbabwe, indeed, saying she is the reason why there was that necessitated the coup in the first place, because it was quite evident that Mugabe, due to even old age and other health issues, could not really govern. And so there had been plans of transition and, finding another leader for Zimbabwe. But Grace Mugabe thought it was a good opportunity for her to inherit, the president as the next head of state. And I think the people and the leadership of ZANU-PF was not very pleased with that. And so it made a lot of quarters very uncomfortable there in Zimbabwe, and that was the beginning of even the anger and the discomfort within the ZANU-PF party. And then but the president, who is the president right now in Zimbabwe, Emmerson Mnangagwa, was the vice president, and so she made sure that Emmerson Mnangagwa did not get along with the president, and at some point Emmerson Mnangagwa fled the country because I think he felt his life was threatened. And there it is. So this government official gave a press conference yesterday, and they said President Mugabe will be buried on Sunday. But what is interesting is she did not give details as to where the president will be buried. And I have said there earlier, some presidential spokesperson over the weekend said he should be buried at the Heroes Acre. But some family members, even I was just seeing some images and reading some reports, from his own village, native village, they're actually waiting to bury him over there. And some family members were expressing that after the toppling, after the bloodless coup that happened in 2017, Mugabe was a very bitter person, and he went to his death bitter. And so he actually had sort of expressed that he would want it to be buried to his village, or at his village. And so I don't know if that is something that the family would honor. And also this will be seen as he would have avoided all these people that he was very clear. There are some people he did not want to attend his burial or his funeral, and these are the people who participated in the coup that removed him from power in 2017. That will be even the president right now himself, President Mnangagwa. He was part of of that, I believe. And so let's see how that will work out. So they have not given a clear information about where the former president, now late Robert Mugabe, will be buried. But we are waiting for that. But they've said the body should be brought to Zimbabwe. That is tomorrow. The government sent some officials and some family members. They chartered a plane all the way to Singapore, and so the body should arrive into Zimbabwe tomorrow. But they're not even given the time which the flight will arrive. But I think that is something they're still working on. And so there will be two. He will lie in state at two places. That is the Harare's Rufaro Stadium, as well as National Sports Stadium, also in the capital. And the Mutsavanga, who is the information minister there, said that they'll give more information as they continue to receive that. So the official information from the government of Zimbabwe is that a decision has not been made yet. I don't know if it has been made now that I'm on air, but the last time I checked when I was coming on air, it has not been made yet as to where the former president Robert Mugabe was to be buried. There had been suggestions and, of course, heavy leanings that he will be buried in the Heroes Acre, and that is what the government wanted. The family has not made it very clear, and so, of course, the end of the day, I think the family's decision will have to be respected, but it is understood, or it is expected, that he will be buried at the Heroes Acre next to his first wife, Sally, who was buried at the Heroes Acre. And there's a vacant plot reserved for a former president next to her grave. I do not know how Mrs. Robert Mugabe, that is Grace Mugabe, will take that to see her husband, her now late husband, be buried next to his first wife. I don't know. Maybe she will not have a problem with that. There are bigger issues than just where somebody will be laid to rest. But of course, in this, it's very monumental, and the world is watching. And of course, only African leaders seem to have been supporting, in support and condoling with the family. A lot of the West, nothing positive has been coming from, European Union or those countries out there in regards to the death of Robert Mugabe. So problem in Cameroon, like I said earlier, a lot of abductions have been happening, and right now the children have not opened school in the Anglophone region of Cameroon, and a teacher has been abducted, and now they're saying by the Ambazonians, I don't know any Ambazonian watching me here, what is the real report there, but it is said that a group of teachers are now trying to collect some money so that they can pay as ransom for their kidnapped colleague. This person was kidnapped by suspected English-speaking, people there, and so who later contacted his wife to demand payment to free him. The Cameroonian authorities have not commented about the case. So this is continuing to increase. The humanitarian crisis is continuing in the Anglophone region in Cameroon. I don't know. It's completely gotten out of hand, and now with the schools closed, the teachers who are trying to go out to work, or maybe in the nearby schools, are now being abducted. I don't know how this will end. And by closing of schools, like I said here last week, you're doing a great disservice to the children from the Anglophone region. Imagine the other part of Cameroon, the Francophone region. The kids are going to school and they're getting educated and they're developing as they should. And the people from the Anglophone region are not able to go to school. So years later from now, we will see quite a disparity in terms of even their competitiveness in the job market is not going to be on a level playing field, because the time when others are going to school, these kids were denied an opportunity to go to school and to study. So that is such an injustice. And every time I think about this, it worries me a lot. And this is what absolutely has brought South Africa to where it is today. Remember, during the apartheid regime, black South Africans were not allowed to access the quality of education the whites and other races were allowed to access in South Africa. They actually had two sets of curriculum, one for the black person and the other one for the white and other few races in South Africa. So the one that was given to the black South African was of very low quality, was very basic, and was not very competitive, and was very low quality. So you find that after the apartheid ended, actually the government had to even ask. That's why you find a lot of Nigerians in South Africa, since Nigeria was very instrumental towards and very vocal against the apartheid regime. And so the president said, you know what, we should bring us professionals from Nigeria, the black professionals, to come here and help us try to build ourselves up as black South Africans, and have them in the different sectors and industries there in South Africa. So that's how a lot of Nigerians ended up in South Africa. Now that you see they're being targeted very much there in South Africa, in that xenophobia madness. And so, because at the time when apartheid was happening, these people were not getting good education at all. The education was the worst. The white man made sure they were oppressed in every way possible. And so the same oppression that was meted against them, they're taking it out to other black people. And so when you see this situation in Cameroon, in the Anglophone region, I'm worried, and in the near future, it might even get worse. If these children do not go to school and get the education, it's nearly 4 years. Schools in the Anglophone regions have been shut. That is unacceptable. And this generation here, you can't even want to begin to know what will happen to them in the near coming future, when now they're out there, they're trying to look for opportunities, and they're told, no, you don't even qualify. You don't have the skills. You don't have the necessary education that we need, that will require for you to take up this job. Assuming Ambazonia even got its independence. So should that happen, and if you continue, fighting for it, I'm sure at some point it will happen. And when that will happen, Ambazonia will be left with no people to build its economy. Ambazonia will be left with children, with a population who does not have the skills and whatever it takes to fit in the job market. So you'll find yourselves in another crisis. So if this is not taken care of now, and I understand the reasons behind this is because apparently the government of Paul Biya is forcing that the schools in the Anglophone region be taught in French, a language that they don't understand. I think that is the biggest contention. And they're saying you cannot come teachers here in French, and we don't even understand French. We speak English. So that is a big problem. So even as these talks happen, I don't know if there are any talks that are happening right now between the Anglophone and Paul Biya's government, because the last I checked, all the leaders that have been agitating for the separation are now facing life sentences. They're jailed for life. Of course, they appealed, so we'll see how that will happen. But the ones who are still remaining, can they negotiate for the schools to open and just find a way in which I don't know, the security. Also, the security has been another problem, because apparently the government have been sending the military to fight the Ambazonians, but also the Ambazonians have been attacking back the military. So it is a back and forth, and the people who are losing in this war are the future generation of the Amazonia region. When you guys will receive your independence, you will be shocked, because there will not be enough manpower there. There will not be enough skilled people there to help you with developing your own economy and your own region. Because these children have been denied an opportunity to go and get an education, now nearing 4 years. That makes no sense at all. So I wish somebody would take this as a very urgent matter and see that the children return to school. I don't know, they might not because of the security situation there, but something has to be done. And we must keep talking. And someone here, Ogebe Omot Chan, you're saying, good morning, Miriam. Condolences to President Robert's family and country of Zimbabwe. Nong Chu saying, good morning, Passion in Africa. Good morning, Sue in Amazonia. Please, Nong Chu, tell me, what is the situation right now from Amazonia? The schools are still closed. I'm seeing here some teachers are trying to gather some money to go pay as ransom. And they're saying it is the Amazonians who abducted this teacher. Please let me know the situation there from Amazonia. And Mukuka Balia, you're saying, my heartfelt condolences to the Mugabe family and Zimbabweans. And Nongchi, you're saying there are no talks with Paul Biya, apart from the fact that Paul Biya wants to talk to his people today. They will be free a few people and give amnesty to some, so that he will be acclaimed as the only person who wants peace. B.R. Garang Miriam is saying the problem in South Africa will create many crises in the countries like Nigeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Ethiopia, etc. Yes, indeed. And you're very right on that. And B.R. Garang, some good news from South Sudan and the leaders. Riek Machar yesterday stepped down in Juba International Airport, where he's there to start the peace process. Remember the peace process, the peace pact. A deal was signed last year in September 12th, and they were given a couple of months to make sure that they put structures in place that will eventually enable South Sudan to have a unity government. That failed miserably because of some concerns, and Riek Machar tried coming to South Sudan in 2016, and the level of insecurity that was meted upon him, he's not been able to return in there for the peace. So he's been worried about his security, and he's been saying, if you want me to come there, then my security has to be guaranteed. So you know what happened, because Sudan is the one that is spearheading the peace talks between Dr. Riek Machar and President Salva Kiir. So they sent the second in command, the head of Sovereign Council, General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, also famously known as Hemeti, also the leader of Sudan Rapid Force, or the Janjaweed. So the other ones, he is the one who accompanied Dr. Riek Machar, of course, among other dignitaries from Khartoum to Juba. I don't know if but it is a good thing. For me, I think this is progress, except that they meet. We were hoping that kiss that they received on their feet in April in Vatican would have done wonders, but it appears there has been a deadlock, and not much has been done in terms of trying to achieve this. So maybe this is a good step, and we should all encourage it, and we should all support it. And so, as of course, Passion in Africa will be here to, of course, bring you the latest about this. And of course, yesterday during that meeting, it is said that the government and the SPLM-IO agreed to deploy all forces between the formation of the transitional government of national unity in November. So they're saying it is important, at least 83,000 strong force to be deployed across Juba from both sides, and so that to assure peace before the formation of the government of national unity. That is before November, because they have the November deadline, that is 12th of November. They were given from, I think from May to November, so they have until then. So they agreed, both sides agreed that 83 83,000 forces should be deployed and made ready to make sure that security is there in South Sudan, even as Dr. Riek Machar prepares to return to Juba. But right now, he is in Juba. He went yesterday for a face-to-face talks with President Salva Kiir in a bid to salvage the stalled peace agreement. And this is the first time Dr. Riek Machar is going to Juba almost a year after he visited the capital. It has been almost a year. I think during the signing of the peace, that was last year on 12th of September, almost a year. And when you look at that, what progress has been made there in South Sudan? What is the main issue there in South Sudan that is hindering for this peace process to even take place, to be effective? What are some of the key players? Because I remember the peace pact that was signed in September 12th, even somebody like Thomas Cirillo refused to sign that, and he refused to be part of that peace deal. And he is also considered a very important player when it comes to, he also has his own army there, so he cannot be ignored, and the influence he has and the stake that the peace process, the stake that he has in terms of South Sudan realizing its peace. And so he also is required to come back to the table and join these other leaders to make sure that whatever is agreed, all people are able to sit in a room and agree and to move South Sudan forward. And so let's see. I don't know what will develop there today. And Biar Garang, you're saying Dr. Riek Machar need more security in the country, and that is true. And from what happened in 2016, I think that justifies. And so they agreed. And so they said before he even returns in November, then there has to be some 83,000 strong force before the formation of the government of national unity. And they both agreed with that. And of course, some of them will be drawn from his own camp, the others from President Salva Kiir's camp, and I think others groups that have also been the president has been having talks with lately. I've been seeing some news. The President Salva Kiir has been trying to reach out to other fractions and trying to bring the country together. So I'm just wishing South Sudan all the best, and let this be the beginning of actually realizing a real peace in South Sudan. But some people are saying this is quite cosmetic, because the things that are causing the chaos that is in South Sudan, including lands that one tribe is saying the other tribe, Salva Kiir's tribe, was brought to take land from Riek Machar's tribe, and they fight. It's more than just the peace deal and the soldiers. There are things that South Sudan that are very vital in should this peace deal be realized and the unity government be realized. That it is seen that has not really been captured, is not appearing even as one of the main point agendas in the peace talks, and these could be the root causes of the problems that is plaguing South Sudan. And so there has been calls that even as they talk about these two leaders, and I've always said here, it's just the egos at play, unfortunately, at the expense of the whole of South Sudan as a country, because they are not selfless leaders. And I think and that's why they keep saying, we keep asking, and here in Africa, do we even have leaders? Because leaders must be selfless, number one, and you must put the interest of your people first. What is the best thing for my people? And then before you even think about yourself. But these conversations and these peace talks that we've been seeing is just measuring around what does Riek Machar want, what does President Salva Kiir want, what does South Sudan people want? That should be the question that these two leaders and other stakeholders should be striving to answer and to respond to. What is it that is making our people cannot stand each other? What is it that one tribe is looking at the other one as enemies? What is it? So these are some of the things that they should start looking at very keenly, instead of what does this leader want, what does the other leader want, what does the ego requires from this side, what is the other ego requiring from the other side. So they should put the country first. And I think that is what is lacking across board here in Africa. I don't even know where I can point about a leader here in Africa that actually has their people in mind. And before they even make a decision, they have to consider how will that affect their own citizens. Very few of them. And we just lack leaders here in Africa. What we have are power-hungry people in the name of leaders who are just there for their own personal benefits. Were it not for that, South Sudan today will not be where it is today, and other African countries, because our leaders are just selfish. If these two people and other stakeholders across that, because it's not only President Salva Kiir and his deputy Riek Machar that are the main. Of course, they are the main reason why South Sudan is there. But there are also other people also around them, and people like Thomas Cirillo and others who also have a stake in this war. I mean, they have to come together now. Ogebe, you're saying Dr. Riek's security is granted, no need for more security. Yes, indeed. And he came with the leader, the second in command of Sudan's army, Hamdan Dagalo there, accompanied Riek Machar there. But the 83,000, they agreed that should be in place. I think security for the whole country. I don't think only for the two leaders, because, I mean, they don't need 83,000 army. But I think just to put in place in the country to make sure should anything erupt, should anything happen, the country is secure. And so they agreed on that, a deployment of 83 strong force before the formation of the government of national unity, that the time is quickly tickling and it's supposed to be happening before the 12th of November. So we will keep you up to date. And we will let you know what else they have talked about there in South Sudan. South Sudan is very, very, I don't know, it's because where I grew up here in Nairobi, there's an estate that it was known. We only knew it as a South Sudan estate. It's very close to where I grew up. And so we interacted, we lived, others married within each other. And so it's... The people I grew up with here in South Sudan, here in Nairobi, and so I would. It's quite sad, You fight for liberation, for secession, and then you're given your own country, and now you can't even govern your country. You fight to fight the white man, to get the white man out of the country, and to allow you to have your independence. That is in South Africa. Then after you're given the independence, now you're here fighting other people who helped you to get that independence, and to get that helped you to get rid of the minority rule, the white minority rule there in South Africa. It is such a shame. And South Sudan's case is very, very sad. And so I'm just hoping this will mark the beginnings of restoring South Sudan as a country. And of course, Sudan, Egyptian's foreign minister on Monday now, they're trying to lobby the United States to make sure that they get South Sudan out of the states that sponsor terrorism. It has been there since 1993. And so Egypt is they're leading the talks, and even I think Nigeria said last week that they're leading the talks to make sure that Sudan is removed from the list of states that sponsor terrorism. And it wasn't listed in that list in 1993. Remember, after harboring the dreaded Osama bin Laden in the early 90s, and so Sudan found itself being listed as the countries that aided and sponsored terrorism in the world. So since 1993, and that was under former President Omar al-Bashir's rule. Now, also some very good news from last week. The AU, of course, accepted, removed the suspension. They had suspended Sudan for 3 months from the AU, because according to the AU rules, you cannot be a member. You cannot be a member there if you're ruled by a military. For a country to be part of the African Union here in Africa, then it must be led by a civilian president or ruler. And so when the army, because the army was the one that was in charge during that whole time after the toppling of Omar al-Bashir, and then after the protesters were met with a lot of force. That was on June 3rd, if I'm not wrong, because we were here and we reported so much on it, and nearly 100 people lost their lives there in Sudan. So a day later, the AU came out and said, you know what, you have been suspended from the African Union. But now, last week, they came out and issued a statement, and the AU said it has lifted the suspension of Sudan. And that is after they agreed that now they have a new prime minister. And it's just, I think, over the weekend that the prime minister named his first cabinet ministers. He had 18. And out of the 18, I think 4 were women, which I still feel is not enough. But for a country like Sudan, I think think that is progress. And and also that is also one country that I'm really, really glad did not go south, because it was becoming a very delicate balance, the army was really taking over, and it was becoming a militarized state, as it had been for the last 30 years when Omar al-Bashir was the president. And so it was very difficult sometimes to see if there was ever going to be a light at the end of that tunnel. But I'm happy that everything worked out. So let's just see, because they agreed on a 3-year transitional period, and let's just see how that will work out for the people of Sudan. Here in, of course, Punchline Africa, we can only wish them all the best, and we hope that they're able to work out the issues that are still remaining, to make sure that the country gets back to where it should be. And of course, the former leader has been testifying, and on Saturday, he's been testifying, because they found in his house, and he was trying to justify how he received the $25 million that was found in his house. And he said he was given by the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salah, and so MBS. And so he was been saying that and then I gave $5 million to this person, I gave $5 million to the other person, and I then did this. And he mentioned even the now second in command, Hamdan Dagalo, and he said he gave him about 5 million euros, I don't know, in a personal level, or to help him to inject it to the Sudan Rapid Force and help him fight the protesters. I'm not sure, but he mentioned that he gives. I was just wondering, will that not compromise the position of this Hamdan Dagalo, because he's part of the transitional team? What will this mean really? And if he was a very close ally to former President Omar al-Bashir, and that is what the protesters were saying, that you cannot still have these people in place because they're still part and parcel of the regime that had been oppressing us for all this time. So we cannot trust them. And now when former president there was testifying, and he said, he gave Mr. Dagalo this much money, 5 million euros, during that time that the protest had started, among other people that he gave this money to. And so, he wanted some of these charges to be removed, but the court in Khartoum refused. And so a former president is still testifying against a case against him of money laundering and other charges. But also the army has come out very, very clearly and have said they will not hand over former President Omar al-Bashir to the ICC or any other international body for prosecution or for him to face charges. They will deal with him at home. And so they have vowed to protect him from receiving any international charges. Remember, he has been having a warrant of arrest over his head since 2009. 2010, another one was issued, and it was said, like, if he goes to other African countries who are part of the ICC, who has ratified being part of the ICC, then he should be arrested. And we saw him coming in Kenya, and he was not arrested. We saw him going to, especially Nigeria, during Sani Abacha's rule. That's where he started, early 90s, and he was not arrested. And even after he was issued sanctions then. So he's been, he's received some level of support from other African leaders, even after his ousting. Not many, actually, I don't remember any African leader coming out and tweeting and saying this was a very good thing. They did not do that. They were not in support of the protesters. And so that is where we are today. So as I said there earlier, Egypt, among other countries, even Nigeria, came out and said, Sudan should now be removed from the list of the countries across the world that are aiding and sponsoring terrorism across the globe. So that is what is happening there. So something else that is happening in South Sudan, the Minister of Information has described some members of parliament as anti-government for calling for dismissal of the finance minister over unpaid salaries last week. A member of the Transitional National Legislative Assembly asked the president to fire Salvatore Garang Mabior for failing to fulfill a promise he made recently in May. So apparently the civil servants, that would include the members of parliament in South Sudan, have not been paid for over 6 months now. And, when the Minister for Finance was coming to read the budget, I think in June, even the members of parliament walked out of parliament. They're saying, you need to pay us first before you can bring us this 2019-2020 projected, budget. And so they refused. And so now they are calling on the President Salva Kiir to fire Mr. Salvatore Garang because he failed to honor his promise that he made in May, saying that he'll pay the unpaid salaries for the civil servants, a directive that he failed to honor. So in July, members of parliament threatened to impeach him over the unpaid salaries and failure to account for the past fiscal year. And South Sudan matters are very delicate because it's just here from World Bank. I think they said last year only the country made about $2.4 billion US from their oil. Right? Nobody cannot account for that money. We still have civil servants who have gone unpaid. That money did not even go in support of the peace process that I think is the top of the list of what is important in South Sudan right now. That money did not go to anything that is tangible that you can say, that 2.5 billion actually was injected in this sector. So we see here civil servants have not been paid. Now it's over 6 months. South Sudan had to close about 39 of its embassies across the world and recall 40 of its ambassadors across the world. So that's how dire the situation is in South Sudan. And the $2.4 billion US that the country made from their oil last year cannot really be accounted for. And so just a few months ago, President Salva Kiir came out and said, he's regretting, him and his government, they're regretting, or he is regretting, because the backstops with him, he's the president of South Sudan. He said he's regretting that he directed and channeled this money to the war between him and his deputy, Riek Machar, instead of having to have channeled that money to the people of South Sudan who needed it. So actually they received the money, and a huge chunk of this money went into the war between him and his deputy, Riek Machar. I'm happy he admitted, but also, is he doing anything differently today with the situation that South Sudan is still in today? South Sudan received its independence in 2011. Today, it cannot even pay the civil servants of that country. Today, the members of parliament have not been paid for over 6 months. The civil servants have not been paid for over 6 months. It is such a shame because 2 years after independence, out of the ego of these two people, decided, we will not agree, so what will happen? South Sudanese are going to suffer because we cannot agree as leaders in this country, and plunged the country into war in 2013. So today, South Sudanese find themselves across the world. Others are really longing to come back home. They can't, because what is there to come back for? So I am really praying and hoping that this new move, this new meeting with President Salva Kiir and his deputy, Riek Machar, will actually bear some fruit and will bring a lasting peace between in South Sudan. And that is my prayer. And not because of them, but because of the South Sudanese people, who are across the world, who are longing to go back home, who wants to see their country functioning, who wants to see structures in their country being normal, who wants to see the courts, the police, and everybody else, things moving, and the civil servants being paid. And this comes in a backdrop where there was some committee there, I think of about how many members, I can't remember the exact number of members, who they reside in Juba, but for the last 1 year, the government had been paying for them to stay in hotels in Juba. I don't know how much the good hotels cost in Juba. I've not been there. Maybe I should have Googled. But the best hotels in Juba, as they continue to talk about the peace something. So and they reside, they come from South Sudan, they reside in Juba, their homes are in Juba, but they could not go sleep in their homes. The government paid for them to stay in hotels for over 1 year. To talk about peace, that they've refused to realize, because I think in South Sudan it's a matter of will. Nobody has the will to want to actually see this country do well in their top leadership. So these people had been minting money from the public, from the money that was being made from the oil and by the government, and they're being paid, staying in hotels, the good hotels in Juba, courtesy of the taxpayer in South Sudan, and the government sponsoring. They're staying there for over a year, and they have nothing to show for it. That tells you the misplacement of priorities in South Sudan, and that is quite, it's replicated across a lot of African states. So it's quite interesting there in South Sudan. And what I saw President Buhari castigating South Africans. I saw on a tweet, and he was saying, you cannot fight, you cannot take other Africans from your land, blah, blah, blah. And he was talking, and I was thinking, and you have Biafrans fleeing from their own country because they are unsafe, because they're being attacked in their own country, going to South Africa, and now they're being attacked there. And I was just reading here, they're also being attacked now in Ambazonia, in Cameroon, because when the fighters, when you cannot speak the language, because they assume if you're not in the community, then you're coming from the Francophone region of Cameroon, and so they're still they're being affected there also. I think I read there earlier, and they're saying Nigerians living in Cameroon are asking both their governments and their host country for help after at least 20 Nigerians were killed in separate violence. So they run away from the violence in Nigeria. They come to Cameroon. They go to South Africa, and they're being killed. It's ridiculous. And so the President Buhari, and for what he has made Boko Haram to be, even in Africa. Even this morning, I think I just didn't pick that news from Burkina Faso. There are some people who were killed from Boko Haram's activities. Over from I don't know when, people are dying. And it is under his leadership that Boko Haram has thrived and has continued to maim not just Nigerians, but has now found roots in other African countries. And it is continuing to spread, its ideology and causing mayhem across the continent. So for him to turn a blind eye to that and to think that he has a moral authority, of course, to criticize what is happening in South Africa, it is ridiculousness of the highest order, while he is the one who, under his leadership, a militia group, a terrorist group like Boko Haram, has completely thrived under his nose, under his leadership. And he has not taken a strong stand. And there were some analysts who were saying these moves and the flexing of muscle that Nigeria is trying to do and recalling its ambassador from South Africa and other things, it will only hurt Nigeria, because as it is now, it cannot compete with South Africa as it is. So if should there be sanctions or anything, it is Nigerians and their businesses that will be affected, not South Africa, and its economy will still thrive and will still do well, apparently. But that is a subject for another day. But I'm just saying, for Buhari to come and criticize what is happening in South Africa, and he has a right to some degree, but can he reflect on his own and his own country and the ills he has allowed to happen under his leadership there in Nigeria? Boko Haram has thrived. Biafrans are getting maimed every day. And what has the government of Buhari done? Really, nothing. He turns a blind eye. He does not even know what is happening in his own country, but he's very quick to, of course, point out what's happening in South Africa. And we all condemn what's happening in South Africa, of course. That is not to excuse what has been happening in South Africa. And on Sunday, the famous, Zulu leader Buthelezi, he went to call on the youth and to talk to them and tell them, these people you're killing, these are the same people who sacrificed in their monies, who sacrificed in their countries to make sure that the leaders, the ANC leaders and other black South Africans who wanted to liberate these countries were hosted and were supported and were financed, and now you're here trying to murder them They are the same African countries that have been supportive of us during the apartheid period, and the youths in South Africa could not hear anything of that. They continue to chant, we need to get the foreigners out of South Africa. And I keep wondering, how does a black man become a foreigner in another black land? That is the part that I can't even reconcile, So there it is, and that is where South Africa is today. And of course, there's been a lot of rape cases there, and in South Africa, and President Cyril Ramaphosa has been trying to address that. I was just reading, I think, some news on the BBC website before I came here, and they were saying there's a man who was charged yesterday, a fully fledged grown man, who followed a girl at a restaurant bathroom, a 7-year-old girl, and raped her in the bathroom. And this is just a cautious tale to parents out there. When you go to these public places, I know your children are quite advanced and they probably act mature, but they're still children. You cannot leave your 7-year-old girl, or boy for that matter, because even boys right now, the rate of sexual abuse has increased, and the society is just becoming something else. We are experiencing things and seeing things that were never there earlier. So you leave your child to go to the bathroom at a public place by themselves. You're just sitting there sipping your drinks or eating or whatever it is you're doing, and your child is going to the bathroom by themselves, and you don't care. I think that also, parents, we have to be very vigilant and look after our children. So this man yesterday was sentenced. And guess I don't know how many years he was given. And so during a public hearing, there's a woman who stripped actually naked, and the president, I think, was present. She stripped naked to show the wounds and the treatment she had to receive after she was sexually violated some years back, and as she was addressing that. And so rape has become a very serious issue in South Africa, and a lot of women, especially from these African countries, if you're being raped and then beaten, and so they use it as a weapon, and this is just disgusting, and this has to stop. So South Africa is not very safe, even to its own women, and even to the women from across other countries. And that, of course, adding xenophobia on top of it, I don't know if South Africa will be able to salvage itself and its image. So that is what Buhari is actually saying. South Africa should work on its brand, because as the top African country, and now if xenophobia continues, that will hurt South Africa's brand as one of the top African countries that I'm thinking. And what has Boko Haram done in Nigeria? And why are you not concerned about the tarnishing of the image of Nigeria? Why are you not concerned about the high rate of fraudulent activities from some unscrupulous Nigerians there? Why are you not concerned and address that? Why is it easier for you to see? And I think it's just human nature. It's easier for us to see what's wrong with the other person, but we cannot really see what's wrong with us and what we need to fix, because it's always the other person who's wrong. So I think in this case, President Muhammad Buhari should have a self-reflection moment and see, why are even Nigerians still running away from home? What is it that is doing that is not making these people stay at home? Why are Biafrans leaving, going to other countries still? And fix that. And maybe then he can have the moral authority to stand and tell people about, having a good moral standing in the world, So thank you so much. That has been the show. Unfortunately, Dr. Matsanga was not able to join us. He was taking care of some things, and I was hoping that perhaps he will join in the course of the show. But maybe we will have another show in the afternoon. If not, then we will have Good Morning Africa tomorrow morning. Right now, BR Garang is saying, Mariam, the citizens of South Sudan lost hope between two leaders, which is President Salva Kiir Mayardit and Dr. Riek Machar. So we need the son of John Garang. And who is this? I could call the studios directly to give you a field report from Ambazoni. I wish you'd have told me that earlier. You would have organized with the production, and but maybe you can just give your details the message and to our production, and maybe tomorrow we can see what we can do and you can give us a live update in what is happening in Ambazonia. But so far what I know is the schools have not opened. People continue to flee from their homes and villages. Nothing is really working there in Ambazonia, so it's a very dire situation that calls for the world attention. And I don't think if there's anyone talking about it. The last year and earlier this year, there were some activities, and the Red Cross raised some concern, and French government sort of tried to raise some concern at the United Nations Security Council, but nobody's taking it very seriously. So we have to continue talking, and we have to continue highlighting this, what is happening across Africa, so that the world can know what's really happening in Ambazonia, in Biafra, in South Africa, in Egypt, in Kenya here, because also our politicians now are becoming something else. It's quite embarrassing when you see two old men fighting over what? A peace, because somebody took the microphone first, and then it's just ridiculous. So we need to keep talking and to hold our leaders accountable, and I think that is the only way that Africa can move forward. This has been Good Morning Africa. Thank you so much for your contribution, and thank you so much for your company today, and hopefully we can meet on our next broadcast. My name is Miriam Ogutu. Have a good afternoon.
Fellow Africans, every time we are challenged on matters of importance, there is always a path for redemption. The only thing that Kenya needs at the moment is redemption. It's a redemption strategy that can create a coexistence of all the people, all the tribes, all regions, and all shades of opinions. Challenges come at an hour where a country is on a test. Test runs are always the most crucial points. That's where experiments collapse. Kenya is not an experiment. Kenya is a nation that has existed for 56 years. The challenges, therefore, should not make us hate each other. These challenges should unite us, should unite the people of Kenya to push forward an agenda, to follow their president, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in delivering the agenda for a better Kenya. A better Kenya will produce a better East Africa. A better East Africa will produce a better Africa. The challenges, the obstacles that come amongst us are many, but we can overcome them through discussion, a wider range of discussion, wider disagreements, to agree and disagree, to agree again and disagree to disagree. But we should not form clubs, units, militias, hatred of that nature that can take us to the history. Germany today is Germany because it doesn't want to go to the path of the history. Germany goes to the path of development. Over 70 years ago, Germany was at war with the entire world. Today, it is on the path of resolving some of the problems that come. I want us to stand in the place of Germany and look forward and backwards. See what we can do here, but not yearn for what is in Rome. What is in Rome is safeguarded, but in Sicily, which is Kenya, We need to build a foundation for the younger generation that we are going to live here today. The many who have no employment, the poverty, the ignorance, the diseases that kill the people of Africa. We need to find a modium of operation. Modus operandi. The only modus operandi on this is a united, peaceful Kenya. A Kenya united by values of respect and adherence to the rule of law. A Kenya without schemes of elimination or fiction of elimination or murders written by themselves. A Kenya without any hatred against the president. A Kenya that supports the constitutional roots that the 2010 constitution of yours brought. That is how Africa will rise and shine again. Thank you.